Okay, so here's the premise for today's show. What happens when a man who designs listening rooms for a living for his customers, what happens when he does it for himself? He designs his own listening space. Now, the man in question is Adam Wexler, and he owns High-End Audio Auctions and Stereo Buyers. He buys and sells vintage audio, high-end audio, that sort of thing. Anyway, so he has this new space. The new space is gigantic. It's 7,500 square feet. So Herb Reichert and I went out there to check out the space and have a brainstorming session with Adam about what to do for the listening room itself within this huge space. And the conversation went off in a million different directions, and we had a lot of fun. I don't know how much we accomplished, but we had a lot of fun talking about it. So anyway, that's the subject of today's show. But before I get to that, I'm going to do a brief plug for a friend of mine, Noah Lyon. He's an artist. He lives right near me here in Brooklyn, just a couple of blocks away. He's a painter, but he also does t-shirts. And this is his latest one. I think it's his best t-shirt ever. And anyway, it's for sale on his website, and supplies are very limited. He wanted me to say that. Anyway, and I will link to the website below. Anyway, this is me and Adam and Herb talking about what to do with his new listening room. So Adam, let's talk about this sound room for upstairs. We came downstairs because it was getting cold up there. So anyway, we're in your cozy office, and I'm really excited about the sound room. So what do you have in mind? Because the weird thing for me is that this is what you do for a living. This isn't like the first time you've ever built a sound room, so you kind of know what you're getting into, right?
Well, it's the first time I've ever built a sound room for myself.
I know.
Right.
But you have all this experience building it for other humans.
I do. And thankfully, I don't have a lot of experience building sound rooms because most of the time we're dealing with living rooms, people's homes, right?
Right.
Which become sound rooms, but they're not purpose-built, right?
Yes.
So now I'm facing this situation where I have to build a purpose-built room, right? Because, hey, this space is going to be a listening room. So what do I do, right? I know from past experiences working for other retailers and going to other places that rule number one is don't spend $200,000 on acoustic treatment.
Right.
Rule number two, which actually might be rule number one, is maybe don't hire an acoustician.
Right.
Because that'll take you to the $200,000.
Right.
And maybe not work.
Oh, it's definitely not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know of examples of that. Here in New York City.
Plenty of examples.
Right. Plenty I know of, yes.
So the question is, how do I approach this? It's like a chicken and egg thing. Do I just build a room, see what happens, see how it sounds, and then mold it from there?
I seriously, I think is important, because you could just look up, is the ratio of the width to the,
So
length
the ratio...
That's important.
The ratio is important. So right now we're somewhere in the 30 long by 15 wide dimension area with just under 10-foot ceilings.
Okay.
And I don't know if you caught it in the video, but the ceilings are open beam ceilings.
Yeah, I chose them.
Fiberglass in between the beams.
Okay.
So I think that's going to help, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a solid ceiling. We got some diffusion.
And they're close space, these joists.
So we got some diffusion, we got some absorption, so I think that's a good start.
Right.
The next plan from there is going to be building solid walls, right? I know I don't want drywall.
No, you don't want drywall.
You're not going to use drywall?
I'm not going to use drywall.
No, that's
because I saw wood studs.
It's going to be wood studs, 2x6s. I think I'm going to do something like probably some type of maple ply or something along those lines.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
In the small poking around and reading that I've done, people, aside from the aesthetic alone, is that there's some absorptive qualities to the ply as opposed to just straight up reflectiveness of drywall. Right? I don't know. Do you have any experience in this? I mean,
it's funny. I'm involved in this weird. You ever belong to an email group?
Sure.
This email group I belong to, and it's all like these brainy characters, and they started talking about what we're talking
Right.
about. How do you make a sound room? What's the secret of it? And they're talking math and acoustically. And they said, well, Herb, what do you think? I said, put a lot of shelves in it and store, like, broken car parts and old tuners, and just store all the crap that you have no place for, and I bet it'll be fine. And you know what? They all kind of went for it.
That's kind of the approach.
You know,
Tchotchkes, right?
tchotchkes.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely the approach.
But what about non-parallel walls? That
non-parallel?
If you make them, angular,
See, thankfully, that's not something that I have to think about because the building was built in 1860, nothing is parallel.
You know what, this guy, Arthur Loesch, who was an atmosphere
Sure.
scientist, and he studied waves, and what he told me when I was studying with him, so he said there's no mathematics that describes what happens to a wave when it enters a 90-degree corner. And he said, this is a problem. And so what he started doing is buying nanotubes and quartering them and then chamfering all the corners and the ceiling, every 90 degrees.
Sure.
And people ask me, well, what did it do? A, it smoothed out the sound, and two, it took hashiness out of the sound. Just that one change.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, literally, at the first time he did it, they were duct taped up, just the pieces before they were plastered and installed in.
Right.
And you could really hear the difference. And it was even those things that, you would talk about people clap or what does voice sound like, which is always, I think, a good indicator. It changed that simply.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I think something's going to happen to the front two corners of the listening room,
Right.
for sure. Probably some type of bass trap, or even just putting ply up there so that we
Crowd molded.
we don't have a corner.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
But just like 99% of my customers do not live in listening rooms, so don't have listening rooms. So we want this tchotchke vibe.
Yeah.
I like tchotchke.
A chill space. Do you like an old Harley Davidson engine or something like that?
No.
That you can give.
No, don't get me started. But I mean, my theory on cars is you build the engines in your living room with a white carpet.
All right, there you go.
Otherwise, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's going to be the first approach, is to create a very solid room. Thankfully, one of the walls is stone.
Right, so you got that.
Obviously,
Right.
some acoustic treatment might have to go on there to
Well,
avoid
that is
reflections.
irregular surfaces right
It
there.
is irregular.
So,
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because the bones of the space are already very interesting and also very very conducive to good sound, I think.
Right.
With the floorboards and
Right.
the joists in the ceiling and the columns and all the materials they're already existing in there, I think are going to bring out some very good sound.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it does have
I
those
just thought of the
elements.
perfect one. These stone walls that you have with a vintage mitten collection
All right.
pinned up.
I mean,
it solves all the problems.
do you
And you have vintage mittens.
do you know anybody in that circle?
I think if you Googled vintage mittens, I'm sure I've collected them.
You have.
Hunting mittens. Do you know what those are? Where your hand comes out.
They
of the
sound
way?
hunting mitten sounds maybe too reflective. So okay, so all right, so
we have a stone wall
with
with
mittens.
different colored wool mittens hanging
Yeah.
on it.
All right,
Right.
so that's
We got that
I
covered.
I thought
literally.
some big epiphany was going to come out of you during this video.
I
was
think
gonna,
you mean you want a bigger epiphany than mittens?
than the mittens.
I don't think it gets bigger.
I mean,
No, but I'm
We're
staring
gonna
at
call
this
this
wall, and
episode
it's really
Herb
beautiful.
Reichert's Big Idea.
yeah,
That's the name of this
Yeah.
show.
what else is in there?
What else?
is in
What
there?
else you got?
What else?
What about the back wall?
The point I really was trying to make was stone wall it's one of your great features
Yeah.
there, and the wood floor. So it's a shame to kind of kill it too much, because you've got something nobody else has there. I mean, no art. None of the audio dealers in New York have a stone wall from 1860.
Yeah.
So you got to play that up, but it's hard. And then you put these things on it that are soft, and they're like little paintings. People are fascinated and they think you have taste.
Wait, mittens are like little
Do
paintings?
you think maybe they think I'd
Absolutely.
Del-
Every
delusional?
mitten is different. You know, they're. Do you know how many mittens they've made in Siberia alone? The mittens I'm describing, you could just have one wall just for Siberian mittens, and I guarantee you could get those tomorrow.
This
Yeah.
might be the like the.
So before I post this video, you better buy those mittens before the price.
How many
starts to
mittens
go
do I
up.
need?
A whole
big is
wall's
your wall?
worth.
I
13
mean,
feet, you
30
said?
feet.
It's a lot of
Well,
mittens.
then you might have to switch to like stocking caps.
What type
or
of clothesline should I use to hang the mittens? I mean,
something. No, that wouldn't be right up by the top,
yeah,
right by the 90 degree between the ceiling and
the
the
mitten.
Yeah, a little clothesline with like
You should
something hanging.
Buy the URL before Steve
Yeah.
posts this video. I mean,
Yeah.
acoustic mittens.
Acoustic mittens. It's the next thing.
Okay,
I think
so-
you should just ditch the whole high-end auctions and stereo buyers. Just go deep into the mittens.
audio mittens.
Audio mittens.
Well, this is what bugs me.
Diatom.
On that audiophile question, the idea of having speakers set up 6 feet from the wall and then 5 feet from the side wall, and then the chair is right up by the speakers, and there's more space between the back of the chair than there is between the front and the speakers. This seems absurd. I mean, what do they call those couches? Those L-shaped couches with all kinds of pillows and
Sectional.
yeah,
Yeah.
and dogs. I mean, I kind of like the more turn of the century, something more French or Sonic or Moroccan, this idea of like everything being stern, and you've got an Ames chair, and it's in just the right location, and the speakers are. Yeah, I mean, no, this is really important. When you're listening to us, we've already established that the difference between a boring hi-fi and a non-hi-fi or a non-audiophile is intensity.
Sure.
Even in sports, everything as the intensity level goes up, it gets more engaging. The listening experience, I think it should embrace you a little more rather than challenge your left brain. That's what I meant about the checklist too. What am I analyzing this?
Well, therein lies the question about a listening room too, and even designing it, right? So when you design a listening room, or when I'm thinking of this listening room from an acoustic standpoint and like an environmental standpoint, the acoustic experience,
Statement
the
aesthetically.
acoustic experience and the aesthetic environmental vibe of it, right? Say, whether it be a place where you're drying mittens or a place where you're
You want people to
Don't be-
remember when they go home and tell their friends about it. That's actually what my goal would be for a listening
But the
room.
question is then, does it matter that I'm aiming for getting the most optimal sound out of, let's say, a pair of speakers or a stereo system, where I'm making it, setting up the room in a way that I'm getting the best possible sound out of it? Or do I create an environment where there's some compromise to it, and, who
It's the
cares?
experience.
Right.
some people would say you want the room to disappear, right? You want just the sound.
Right.
That's the sound is the star, and that's the main thing. That would be the quote audiophile approach, right? But I think what Herb is describing is that the room is the experience itself, because the room is the space that you're in.
Of course.
If I go to Steve's or he comes to my place, we're playing records
Yeah.
to impress each other on some level. A, that it's a cool piece of music, and two, look at how my system sounds. Look how this record sounds,
Well, I'm into all the senses. Like, we burn incense in
Right,
here. We have
right.
candles. We have,
You want it to be a
cozy
story they'll
cozy
take home.
things. Obviously,
Records.
records and curiosities.
Yeah, stuff. So what you're
Definitely
saying
the
is you're going to
space.
make like a very large man cave.
Man cave makes me think of like football jerseys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
me too.
Audiophile
I
version
think it
man
has
cave.
to be.
You know what? This is exciting, because next time we come back, it's going to be so much further along,
Yes.
and we'll see how this is. It's like
Trials and
talking about a
tribulations.
work in progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be sitting in the sound.
We'll be in the sound.
Yeah.
We'll be in the space.
I mean, I can't promise you that I'm going to have the mittens, Or
I
all
think
enough
this is
Puppets
totally
are
contingent
okay.
on the mittens. Tonight, you're not going to go home to see your kids. You're going to be working
Do you know
those
anybody
mittens.
that knits? You know, you say mittens. It was definitely going to be wool of some sort for some acoustic treatment. But you know, the mitten thing could work. Could work.
They look good on stone walls, and they don't. You wouldn't have to put a very much of a hole.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to damage the wall to do it.
Yeah.
I think we've made major progress here. I think we're onto something.
I just need to.
You
drop
have
down.
your work cut out for you. We're going to be back in the end of February to see the finished result.
Yeah. No pressure.
No pressure.
No
right,
pressure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
My guests. I'm here, guys. I'm still here. My guests, Adam Wexler on the right, Herb Reichert on the left. And we are at Stereo Buyers, Resolution Audio.
Resolution audio, video, and
Right.
high-end audio auctions.
High-end audio auctions.
It's going to be audio wonderland upstairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so thanks, guys. And we'll be back here very soon to see how this all develops.
And wait, where are we?
We just said where
We're in
we
Red
were.
Hook, Brooklyn.
We're in Red
Did
Hook.
we say?
Oh, we did. Oh, we did. We said we were at Stereo Buyers and high-end audio auctions and
But that could have been
Resolution
in
Audio.
some other country.
Could have been on the moon, but no, we're in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
Yeah. On the waterfront.
And are you going to have a audiophile system of the day at the end?
Oh,
No,
interesting.
this is too much. This is already too much information.
Never mind.
Later. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.